Beautiful. Okay. Arlice Davenport is a Wichita native, where he carved himself a name in the writing community, first as a news reporter and now as a poet. While getting to know Arlice, it is apparent that his passion for the written word is something deep and inquisitive. He spent time critiquing poetry, investigating diction and each punctuation mark. His close observation of poetry was ignited by the cunning and novel way E.E. Cummings wrote, and Arlice sometimes experiments with language in ways that pay homage to Cummings and others who have inspired him along the way. When I had the opportunity to read Setting the Waves on Fire, I kept seeing Arlice play with the idea of the heart of the poet. So I asked him to describe what the heart of the poet is. His response, "To have the heart of a poet is to be open to the depth and breadth of experience, which again comes to us. That experience for the poetic heart shows forth, manifests another deeper experience, which calls out to be re-presented in language, in imagery, metaphor, form. Thus the heart of the poet extracts the heart of experience and expresses it anew in a different mode, poetic language. That type of heart can never be too big, too sensitive, too full." And he truly does have the heart of a poet, but it would be a lot less useful without his wife of 40 years, Laura. Hi, Laura.
You're right there, absolutely.
Arlice gives Laura an immense amount of credit for his inspiration and truly feels she is his muse of beauty. Together, they have traveled internationally over 30 times. During that time, Arlice collected more creative inspiration. He believes in the power of travel as a way to change your life in a way that moves you, sometimes literally, into a new understanding of yourself. Today, he comes to us from his home, and we come to him from ours. How blessed we are to be celebrating together. From us at Meadowlark, we are grateful for this opportunity and honored to have you be a Meadowlark author, Arlice. If you folks have a drink, I believe it is now the appropriate time to toast Arlice for his book launch. Congratulations, poet.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it from everyone. Yeah, I'll have a sip of my water here. No wine tonight.
Yeah, I think he had honey wine last night.
Right.
Well, Arlice, the stage is all yours.
Oh, it's all mine. Good grief. Well, let me say, I really, really appreciate everyone being here or being there. Technically, you're there, I'm here, but I really appreciate your being here, attending this event. It's one of a kind, hasn't been done before. It's certainly one of a kind for me because this is my first book, but it's an honor to see so many people signed up and so many great names like Roy Beckemeyer and Robert Dean and Kevin Rabus, real poets who are probably going to critique my work after I've read it, but that's the way things go. And Skylar Lovelace is here, and she is married to Albert Goldbarth, who Wichitans will know is a great, great, great poet. And so it's an honor to have her here as well. So I'm going to read some poems, and I'll try to introduce them. And then I can pause, Lindsay, if you think afterwards, if there's going to be comments or questions or critique, no critiques, sorry, comments or questions. If you have a critique, write it in chat and I'll just look past it. Okay, I will get started. I am going to read from a press proof. The last press proof that came on this book, you can see my markers, and we're going to do something unusual in this poetry reading. We're going to illustrate each reading that I do. And so, does anyone recognize who this artist is? I'm sure some of you do, but I can't hear you, of course. So it's Mark Rothko, and the first poem involves Rothko and angels. So I will get to it. The first poem is called Angels, and as soon as I find it in my book, this is divided into two sections. So when I have those types of divisions, I'm going to read the number first and then go ahead with that first section, second section, so forth. All of these poems except one fit on one page. So you should be able to endure them quite easily, I hope. So this is Angels. 1. The color fields shimmer in yellows and blue. Rothko's ghost lingers nearby, wearing his snappy green editor's eye shades, studiously red penciling each word that a painting is not worth. He labors in limbo because he took his own life, even though he did not believe in an afterlife, or in limbo, or in laboring endlessly for redemption. 2. The color fields waver in primary hues. You can see the suspended movement in great feathered rectangles, electrified by, shivering with transcendence. Van Gogh believed in it, so did Chagall. Angels, on the order of Rilke's terrifying beings from a realm of suffering higher than our own. They hear our cries as a shimmering geometry of color. Pick a hue, any hue will do. That's Angels. I'm going to move now to a poem that's about something that occurred in the news last year, a real tragedy for me and for many, many tourists, and of course for the French Republic, a horrible, horrible incident. But I've written a poem about it, and my poem is not so somber, but my wife and I have traveled to Europe many times, as Tracy or Lindsay mentioned. We've gone to Notre Dame, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. It has a really strong place in our heart, and it was such a shock to see this happen. And it moved me to write this poem, which is called Notre Dame Burns. Quasimodo frankly sounds the alarm, swinging on bells like a medieval orangutan. No sanctuary lingers in the smoldering nave. Gargoyles roll like fire-breathing dragons, then cower in corners, confused. Notre Dame crumples in the wind, baptized by the Holy Ghost and fire. Passion Week transvalues every value. The great reversal comes. Centuries of history agonize on the cross. Dreams of resurrection snag on collapsing rooftops. Once French pilgrims navigated by the spire, now it tumbles in flames, puncturing the pews and all signs of hope. Prayers smother in the billowing smoke. Non-believers gasp in hellish horror, while the devil laughs, looting their sacred patrimony. The ghost of Victor Hugo strolls amid barriers of crime tape. Fire has done what the revolution could not. Our Lady has lost her head. Flame so much messier than the swoosh of the guillotine, stirring collateral damage in their wake. That is Notre Dame Burns. Anyone recognize this poet and painter? I'm sure you do. It's William Blake, a great, great visionary of English Romanticism. And I'm going to read a poem called Beatitude that features this painting in the beginning. This has numbered sections as well, so I will start with section number 1. So this is Beatitude 1. William Blake's Ancient of Days casts down atomic yellow rays of ever-shimmering light. Coal-scuttled clouds vie for dominion in the dusky sky, winnowing to purple, to pink. On the desert floor, barren and warm, recumbent dunes lie like sleeping women, restless, shifting, breathing new form. Images swirl in the whiplash wind. Cacti stand sentinel over unspoken needs. 2. All this passes for a dream in my world, a cosmic concatenation. I've learned not to use so many big words, of identity, a blueprint, a revelation, a tender embrace. Secret impulses carry the dream down the royal road of the soul, which quivers in the dark, seeking succor. Suddenly laid open, it lets energy pour in, sacred, incumbent, a beacon, a beatitude. That is beatitude. Now my fourth poem, once I get to it here, is called Poems. Roy Beckemeyer wrote about it in the blurb that he did for my book. It's the only poem that's a little more than 1 page long, so bear with me on that. The title is Poems. Your heart shatters like a plate of china smashed against a grungy tile floor. Pieces scatter like spiders, impossible to retrieve, impossible to rebuild, impossible to contemplate. Your heart is bruised, bleeding, drops of unrequited love. The viscera of your body tighten like a noose. You could slide your head into it if you choose, but what would be the use? Love flees like deer bounding in a forest. You are too broken to give chase. Yet the heart yearns for completion. It is the foundation of all desire. Like a baby's cry in the night, the heart wails, begging to be heard. Echoes permeate the dampened air. You must breed a new heart with new desires, tightening it together with a titanium plate. This wound will not be opened again, though it aches and aches in your jaded memory. Let poems be your guide. Their love is eternal. They seek the ideal. They comfort the sorrowful. Their lines inspire the helpless mind. They raise you above the broken pieces of existence. You have the choice, live or die, wallow in remorse, or claw your way out of your battered shell. You can decide today, let poems become your new heart. It will not bleed. That is Poems. Now we're going to number 5, which is called Shame. This is a great image you're seeing of La Mer de Glace outside Chamonix, France, near Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Europe. This is a glacier. La Mer de Glace is a glacier, and the glaciers are receding horribly. We're all responsible, in my opinion, and that's what this poem reflects. And so I'm going to read now Shame. 1. We carry a river of ice within us, marred by dirty, scuffed ripples like a starving child's ribs. It ascends the mountain slope, strewing in its wake a palette of naked rocks and clear-cut tundra. Orange and cairns point to our shame. 2. Once you could see the glacier behind the rough-hewn pulpit of the tiny Anglican church on the South Island of New Zealand. Angelic white, full and overflowing, the glacier swept into the front pew like the descent of the Holy Ghost. Now you glimpse only a dull tableau behind the big picture window. Aging panes of glass point to our shame. 3. We swam against the tide of La Mer de Glace near Chamonix, France, urging the glacier not to turn back from our carbon fin print, urging the train we rode in on to let us hike our way home. All was silent except for the constant drip, drip, drip of La Mer's tears. We wept too. Centuries of history point to our shame. That's a serious poem, and I do believe we all have something to be ashamed about for contributing to the reduction of glaciers around the world. You can see I pull some of these poems from my travels. La Mer de Glace outside Chamonix, France is a fantastic destination. I recommend it to every one of you. Although now it's not a good time to travel to Europe, but you can plan your trip and dream, which is always part of the fun of traveling. All right, now I think I made a mistake on my, now we move to the sixth poem, which is called Apple Tree. This is written about my father, who died at the age of 92 in 2014. He had an apple orchard on his property, 10 acres outside of Wichita. And this is about the orchard, my father and me. Apple Tree. We trundled down the wooden steps behind the weathered farmhouse, headed toward the orchard planted in yellow grass. Only one tree still bears fruit. The others dried up from unwilling neglect, the inheritance of old age, the dark turning of nature's cycles. Looking back at the westward window, I see nothing but its vacant stare, seeking the setting sun to reflect its waning light. You stumble past the lonely apple hanging precariously above the ground. When it falls, your legacy of husbandry will be complete. I glance into the dull glaze of your ancient eyes, seeking a light to reflect my image, hidden neatly in the folds of your wrinkled face. I am the only fruit hanging from your long English lineage. I snatch the wizened apple and lay it lovingly on the ground. It will wither with the winter winds. Next to the sun's slanting beam, I feel the frisson of autumn's chill. Dusk settles on the fields. I stare at your stooping frame, my arm hooked precariously through the tree's crooked branch. That was Apple Tree. And my father was very proud of his apples. Give me a second here while I find my next poem. All right, this is one of my favorites. It's called Losing Your Way. It's inspired by C.P. Cavafy. I don't know how many, maybe the poets know who he is. He's a Greek poet, 20th century poet, a great poet. His historic poems of Greece are fantastic. His personal poems can be a little uncomfortable because of his sexuality, but this reflects the way that he addresses existential issues, which of course is one of my big interests. Losing Your Way, after Cavafy. Do not let your life get so far ahead of you, busy and distracted, that you meet it on the way back, a stranger, an alien. Your years are long and vigorous. They curl upon the sand like S-shaped tidal waves as the bay seeps into the grain greased sea. Tomorrow, if you meet yourself, burdensome and strange, you will have lost your one chance for glory. You will have lost your way in a dark wood. You will have lost the mothering protection of the sea, whose gentle tides are forever taken away, never to return the same. That is Losing Your Way, which we all are apt to do. And of course, the dark wood is Dante's dark wood, where he lost his way until Virgil rescued him. And as a result, we have the great Divine Comedy, perhaps the greatest poem written, but we won't make judgments of superiority right now. All right, this is my last poem for right now. It's called Horizon. I want to say one thing. I meant to say it at the beginning. The first thing is don't use big words in your poems if you're going to read them aloud. I've learned that. The second word is to remember, for those of you who don't read poetry a lot, the I, the capital I in a poem is not necessarily the poet, him or herself. It is the persona of the poem. And I think that's relevant here for those of you who know me when I read this poem. Horizon. On the flat edge of the horizon, a purple-pink glow beckons me on, across empty fields dusted with snow. Trees raise their hands in praise for the end of this day plump with possibilities. I have accomplished nothing, yet I turn the lathe one last time, cutting metal, cutting bone, with a wound too deep to plumb, too dark to lighten, transfused with blood that stains the sun. Sorrow trails me like a bird dog, sniffing out her prey, startling quail to take flight. I watch them pass overhead. I am not a hunter. They are safe to flee, coveys of comfort. The world is too much with us, Wordsworth proclaimed. I contemplate his lament, but see no way out. Ancient faces watch my route. I am aimless, famished, still seeking out transcendence, still hungry for God. All right, thank you. Those are the 8 poems I chose to read tonight. I hope you enjoyed them, got something out of them. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And there are plenty more poems to come from where those were. And we have some guests who will read poems out of my book coming up. But I'll turn it over to Lindsay. So once again, thank you for listening. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Arlice. That was really beautiful. And we have a full chat box of lots of beautiful words for you. Everybody's very happy and having a good time, it seems. So thank you all for participating in that chat bit. We do have some guest readers.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
We do have some guest readers. Our first one will be Roy Beckemeyer. He is going to read a poem out of Setting the Waves on Fire. Roy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
And will we see him?
Yes, we should be able to. Let's try that again. There we go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Roy.
Okay. Hi, Arlice. I'd like to start by saying that I've known Arlice for, I don't know, going on 10 years now. Arlice was the book page editor for the Wichita Eagle for many years. And during that time, the Wichita Eagle had a book page with reviews that addressed significant books in a very erudite and literary way. And for those years, that book page, in my opinion, rivaled the New York Times book review page. It would stand up against anybody's book page in the country. And Arlice, I'm glad you're retired, but man, do I miss that book page.
I do too, Roy. I do too.
I really miss it. I chose to read Arlice's poem, Alabaster. It's dedicated to Mary Oliver, who many of you know died a year or so ago. And I think this really captures so much of what she offered in her poetry. So this is Alabaster. In winter, much of the living hibernates. The dead seek out warmth. Birds sing only in treetops. serenading the world beyond. Let us soar to it on the white wings of your poems. You have said that one day we shall all live in the sky, but our consolation now is the green earth draped in snow. Our footprints fade as soon as the sun burns down. You left us in brightness. All your poems embraced goodness, love, and light. A blanket of feathers covers your grave. Beside them, a silver pen shines, the instrument of grace. You wrote more than we could absorb, more than our mediocre minds could imagine. You blessed us with the whiteness of wisdom. We yearn to follow you and the treetop birds into the sky. For now, we must feed on your alabaster poetry, nature's hidden calligraphy, spelling out our names. Alabaster by Arlice Davenport.
Thank you, Roy. That was beautiful reading. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. Next, we have Tracy Millian Simmons sharing Nearing the End.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you.
I was honored to publish this book, and I'm honored to be reading now. I hope it do it justice. This is Nearing the End by Arlice Davenport. First, give all your money to the poor, then gather your other possessions and burn them, breathing a prayer of contentment as the smoke spirals to the heavens. Write farewell notes to all your dearest friends and nearest relatives. Keep the notes clear and concise. No euphemisms for death and dying. No saccharine clinging to the world. Find a reputable carpenter to build a simple coffin, most likely a plain pine box. Meditate on your coffin for days. Imagine yourself laid inside it with no way out. It will be your temporary home. Keep it sparse and Spartan. Look beyond it to the void. Ritually bathe your body, the last thing you own, cleansing it of sin and regret. Repent, rejoice, reunite with your source, bask in the glow of requited love. In the sand, write with your finger a haiku. Make it jump like a frog into a pond of lilies. Make it land on your heart with ever the lightest touch. Pray for grace to board your passage. Only the living guess at its true nature, unknowing on this side of the grave. Read the Phaedo by Plato. There, Socrates says, death is either a deep, eternal sleep or a reunion with other departed souls. You do not have to choose. The reality will come straight to you like a messenger from afar. Be open to its meaning. Finally, step into your coffin, fix the lid, and sleep. When you wake, you will be on the other side of dreams. Do not look back. You will have entered the domain of the dead. Make it your new abode. Clamber toward the light.
Very good. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
That is definitely one of my favorites too. That is the opening poem of the book. Very powerful way to introduce the book. Next, we will have Bob Dean reading. He is going to read Clooney.
Let me just say something while we're getting ready here. Bob Dean was highly instrumental in getting this book published. He was my editor, and I was an editor at the Eagle for a long time, but I have a saying that's absolutely true. Everyone needs an editor. including the editor. So Bob Dean did a wonderful job with my manuscript. He communicated with Tracy. He kind of was a trailblazer. I sent the manuscript in, and Tracy, for some reason, said yes. And it was a wonderful day. And I have Bob to thank for so much of the work that was done on that manuscript. So thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
It was a joy to work with your manuscript. It was just terrific, and I remember you told me after you sent me the manuscript that when I was kind of asking you what the theme was, and you said transcendence. And I think all of the poems in the book really live up to that word transcendence. I especially feel Emerson at the bottom of a lot of this stuff. So the one I'm going to read, Clooney, I think is a good example of that. And it has one of my favorite first lines. Clooney. French revolutionaries guillotined God at Cluny, but he extracted his tithe all the same. 1/10 of their bad ideas tossed back at them. The tyranny of terror, cheap dream of heaven in ruins. A vast emptiness swamps the nave, stumps of pillars stained black and gray and black again by age and rain and blood. Only one tower stands intact. I scan the burnished hills behind it. They do not look back. The birth throes of liberty, cried Thomas Jefferson. Rejoice! Despots toppled, authority crippled for a future that never comes. Terror and waste, waste and terror, the desolation of faith. On the tiny town square, a bistro beams. Syncopated lights surge behind the bar, sending out distress signals of the mind, the throb of synapses firing wildly in the wind. Material infinity. Old men saunter into down a beer and harness their dogs under tables. Parents and students sip pricey shots of espresso, emancipated energy. Above the din, they cannot hear the earth's foundation crack. Freedom leaves a sacred void in its wake, watered by the blood of worldly martyrs. On the menu, egalite, fraternité, fissure and ruin, thunder in the hills. Liberté lingers outside in the municipal lot, a van propped up on wooden blocks for the night. No hassles, man, free parking. Let's hoist another beer to Robespierre. His dog strains at its leash.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. That's the French poem, and I like my French poems very much. France is a great country, so, and Cluny's a wonderful spot to visit, full of history and religion and so many other things. It's just a great way, and you did a great tribute by reading that, so thank you. Now, don't we have one more reader?
Yes, I will be reading a poem as well. This is my favorite part because I just love meta poetry. I love poems about poems. And Arlice had picked this out for his lineup to read, and then I asked him if I could snatch it because this poem has stuck with me since I read through the book the first time. So I'm going to read Along the Forest Path. 1. You speak the word that will hold back death, muffled along the forest path. I seek a clearing to hear keenly what was said. I seek an opening to liberate all meaning. Nothing shows itself, save the flittering of birds. 2. The poem is not yours to keep, nor the others who so eagerly read. It belongs to the earth, fated for the forest floor, sifted through mounds of leaves, yellow and brown, buried by a hiker's boot, unwilling to be found. 3. Poetry fortifies the bond between spirit and breath, each verse an exhale. Poems dwell in the forest, thick, silent, and dark. Our hut hovers high in the sky. There, exhales dissipate. The word thins, death thrives, and poetry mourns the final whimper. Along the forest path.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Arlice.
you.
We are
Anyone know
now,
the? Go ahead.
oh, I was going to move along, so if you had something to say, by all means.
Anyone recognize the allusion to the whimper? I'm sure you do. It's from T.S. Eliot, and he talks about how the world will end with a whimper and not a bang. It's a great poem. I can't remember the name of it right away, but I would recommend that you read 4 quartets by T.S. Eliot whenever you have a chance. You'll be interested by those. All right, that's all I have to say.
So it is now book raffle time. Just so you know, the questions I am asking, the answers can be found on Arlice's About the Author blurb, which can be found on the internet, and also in the author profile on the Meadowlark website, which is www.meadowlark-books.com. So if you need a little help finding the answers, they're there. Otherwise, just go for it. Trust your gut. And I would like you to raise your hand in some fashion, and I'll call on you, and you can give the answer. And if it's correct, I'm going to put your name in a hat. And if it's incorrect, we're going to try somebody else. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So, at which newspaper did Arlice serve as a writer and editor? Bob?
Wichita Eagle.
Yes. Very good.
That was a softball question too.
Yeah.
We're starting easy. They're going to get harder.
Right.
How old was Arlice when he was inspired by poetry? Helen, I'm not sure who just raised your hand over there, but yes.
17 years old. 17 years old.
17
Hello,
years
Jim
old.
and Helen.
And in that same theme, which poem by which author was the turning point for him at this time? I see eager Bob. Does anybody have a guess or want to take a quick Google search?
You can read the profile real quickly. Somebody knows. Come on.
Ooh, Rhonda says Cummings. Yes, Rhonda, that's exactly right. E.E. Cummings inspired Arlice. Do we know the poem name? Kevin Rabus says Injust. That is correct, Kevin. This is going swimmingly. I'm so proud of you. You did your homework. Roughly how many times has Arlice traveled to Europe? Yes, Julie.
30.
Correct. I feel like I need Jeopardy music on in the background, and you have to answer the question. How long have Arlice and Laura been married? Oh,
40
Tom,
years.
is that Tom?
40 years.
Oh, you already got one.
Yeah.
One correct answer per person.
Was that 40 up there, Tom? Perfect. That is correct. That's beautiful. Congratulations. We see Laura
Thank
down
you.
here. Hi, Laura. Okay, this one you can find directly in the profile. It's a big one. What does Arlice aim to do in his own poetry?
This is a stumper question. People will be stumped.
I am willing to accept a wacky answer too. Laura, yes. Oh, cannot hear you. I'm going to ask to unmute you. Let's give that a try.
Not use big words.
That's what I said. That's what I said tonight. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to enter that as one of the possible ones.
Good answer.
I love it. Any other answers for this one?
Okay, what's the answer, Lindsay?
The answer is, in his own poetry, Davenport aims to bring ideas and images of our experience together in the poem, then let them do their own individual magic. I highly recommend you check out the author feature on the Meadowlark website. It was really fun. I asked some softball and some hardball questions, and he took them all with great stride and finesse. Very, very good answers there, Arlice. Okay,
Thank
last
you very much.
but not least, where else can you find Arlice's poetry? There are 3 other places where his poems have been published. Can you give me... Oh, thanks, Tracy. Tracy inserted the Meadowlark website, the author profile in the chat if you want to go check that out. There are 3 other places where you can find Arlice's published poetry. What are they?
Well, I know Tom Schaefer knows the answer to one of them, but maybe he's already had a correct answer. Has he?
He has, but I think on this last one, we'll make it an open playing field. Tom, do you have one of the answers? Let's unmute. Yeah, there we go.
The All Poetry website, which has produced some books as well.
Correct. All Poetry is one of them. Another one is a Kansas publication.
At the Kansas Poetry Society, or?
Not quite.
No, this is an obscure answer. I doubt if anyone except Wichitans would get it, and they'd have to be my age to pull it off.
Oh, Tracy, thanks for catching Andrew's answers. Yes, that was a while ago. Sorry I missed that, Andrew. He also guessed the 40 years together.
Good.
The other 2 are the Osage Review and the River City Poetry. So go check those out for some additional poems by Arlice. Osage River, River City Poetry, and All Poetry. Some bonus material for you. Okay, I'm going to mix these up. And if, for some reason, you have already gotten yourself a copy of Setting the Waves on Fire, you are welcome to have a second copy. We are going to have Arlice send over a signed copy. But if you would also be interested, we are open to giving away another Meadowlark book if you don't have one and are wanting one. So, Micah, will you do the honor of picking the name of the winner?
Yes, ma'am. The winner is Bob.
Bob!
All right.
Congratulations. Thanks for participating, folks.
I don't know if it's fair because I got the softball question.
Well, if you want to give any of these other participants your copy, I'm sure they would not say no. Rhonda's asking if she can buy that one.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Well, you should pick another book. He should pick another one,
Yeah.
don't you think? Or am I
Should we pick
speaking
another
out of
one?
school?
We can totally do that. Okay.
Okay.
Round 2.
Rhonda.
Rhonda, look at that. How
Wow.
serendipitous.
I just gave mine to Rhonda. Is that
I know. So she has
You're
to
like,
give
"Oh,
it back to you now.
free books for everyone." Congratulations, Rhonda. All right. So in our last handful of minutes, we have an open floor to congratulate Arlice or ask any questions if you have them. So if you want to either raise your hand or put up a little icon or ask your question in the box, that is fine. Let's go for it. The floor is yours, audience.
Thank you, Ron. Has a chat. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Roy, I thought
All right,
I
go ahead.
saw a hand over there.
Where did that marvelous cover come from? That's one of the prettiest covers I think I've ever seen.
The title poem, which I didn't read, I guess I could read that quickly, is based in the Cinque Terre of Italy. It's on the Italian Riviera on the Mediterranean Sea. And there are 5 villages. Cinque means 5, Terra means earth. There are really 5 little earths, worlds, along that coast, and they're all brightly painted with pastel colors. The houses sweep up the hillside. The sea is there crashing into the harbor. It's really a wonderful place to be. And I was looking for an image and found this image by, let me look up his name so I don't mispronounce it, Bob Greben, and his website is imagesfromtexas.com if you're interested. But he took this beautiful evening shot of Rio Maggiore, which is the largest of the 5 villages. And when I saw it, I thought, this is perfect. I have to have it. So I worked out a deal with him, and now we have this beautiful covers, which is worth the price of the book. Even if you don't like the poems, the cover is fantastic. So that's Rio Maggiore, another good place to go whenever it's safe to travel again. Anyone else?
I know one of your favorite destinations is Spain.
That's correct.
Is there a particular poem that comes to mind that is reflective of Spain or your experience in traveling there?
There is, but I don't have it with me. I've written about 25 poems about Spain, and they're in my second manuscript, which I've sent to Tracy, but I don't have that here with me, and I can't recite them. My memorization skills are poor, Tom. So Spain is a great country to visit, but it's really hit hard by COVID right now. So I'll show you. I'll send one to you by email, Tom, so you can read it. But I would recommend Spain, Italy, France, all those countries, many others too.
Thank you, Arlice, and congratulations. I've got to slip away, and thank you for allowing me in on this Zoom meeting.
Oh, well, thank you, Tom. It's an honor to have you here.
We'll see you soon.
I'm really pleased to see you. Okay, well, it's great seeing you. Great seeing everybody. I love seeing all these people and seeing their names here on my screen. So I know it's probably premature to say this, but I want to thank everybody for coming, for being here. It's been fantastic, but I'm sure there's still a little more to come. So thank you, Tom. We'll see you later.
All right.
Micah has a question.
clear you've traveled a lot, clear in your poems. Where's a place that you haven't gone that you would like to travel?
Where's the place I haven't gone that I would like to travel? Oh, that's tough. There's so many places to pick. I'd love to go to Patagonia to see the mountains, the Andes, and experience that culture. That's been on our, well, we don't call it a bucket list. I don't like that phrase. But anyway, it's been on our list for a long time. Patagonia would be great. We have friends in Africa who keep begging us to come see them. There are many, many places, but there's something about Europe. There's a magic to Europe, even though it's contemporary now and it's changed in many ways. You still have the foundational spirit of Western civilization there. That's where it all started, in Greece. Greece is a great country too. I love that country. And that spirit is still strong despite, 2,500 years of modernization and all the troubles that you read about in Europe. It's still strong there. It's magical. I would give it my highest marks because it's just a fantastic destination. And so many different countries, so many different cultures, languages, literature, philosophy, all of that, the museums, it's great. But to answer your question, Patagonia would be close to the top of the list. Anything else from anyone?
Bob asks where you got the Notre Dame photo.
Yeah.
Oh, I looked for, I looked on Google for free downloads of wallpaper photos. And so that's where all these came from. Free downloads of wallpaper images. You know what wallpaper is for your computer screen. So that's, I don't know the exact source, but it was in that search. That's a great photo, very dramatic and sad, of course. Yeah, it is.
Does anybody else have any more questions or things they would like to say to Arlice? Well, wonderful. Congratulations, Arlice. Diane shares, and we all share. Julie says congrats. We definitely can't give you enough congratulations for this book release. It is phenomenal. It's quite the accomplishment, and it's really beautiful to watch one of your dreams come to fruition.
It is. I thank you for that. It's wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. It's great. Waiting for the next one. It's coming. I've got it ready. We'll see what happens.
What is
but
next?
I want to say there are a lot of good poets in this audience. What is next? It's called In Search of Duende. And that's not a big word, but that's a foreign word. And you'll have to really look that up because it's so hard to define. Maybe Bob Dean could define it. But anyway, it's got a lot of poems about Spain. Tom Schaefer asked about it. That's where Duende thrives in Spanish culture, Iberian culture. Spell it. Diane wants me to spell it. D-U-E-N-D-E. There you go. Kevin put it up on the screen. Duende. It's a dark, vibrant, creative force, destructive force. It's passionate. It runs through the flamenco dance, through bullfighting, which of course has a lot of ethical problems. And through the poetry of Lorca, Garcia Lorca. I don't know how many of you know him, but he is a champion of Duende, and it permeates his poetry. So he would be a great introduction for you to understand what the term means and see it embodied in his poetry. So that's where we're headed next. We're headed to Spain and then other places around the world. You're welcome, Diane. it's different from setting the waves on fire, but who wants to be predictable? That's always my comment. Who wants to be predictable and produce the same thing over and over? So it's very different, but maybe it'll see the light of day or be birthed into the world, as Lindsay puts it, and we'll have another party like this.
That would be great.
Bob
Tracy
Dean says Duende is native to Andalusia in Spain. That's probably the greatest part of Spain, Andalusia. So rich. Hemingway loved it. There's so many beautiful Blanco Pueblos, white villages that sweep up the hillside, tiny things, full of life, energy. It's great. I guess I should just do a travel program and just tell people where they should go. Maybe I could make a little money doing that. And Robert Dean says the Moorish influence is big there. That's true. It's partly Moorish, partly Gypsy, Spanish. It's a complicated affair, but enough about that. Look for that. Maybe we'll see it next year. Anything else from anyone?
I was just going to thank everybody for coming. As many of you know, whenever you throw a book party, you just never know. Sometimes you get a lot of people and sometimes you get a few, and I have been absolutely thrilled with the turnout. It's been so fun to work with Arlice and get to know him through his poetry. And honestly, I've gotten to know him through his poetry before I met him in person. So this has been great, and I appreciate everyone coming. And Lindsay, thank you to Lindsay. Every Tracy needs a Lindsay.
That's true. But I want to say something about Tracy. I put it in my book and the acknowledgments, but she really is the publisher par excellence. Independent publisher, spirited, talented, got a good business. She really babied me along and did a fantastic job. And everyone I've worked with associated with Meadowlark is first rate. And I know a lot of people have published with them. Beckemeyer has, Kevin Rabus, he's got a couple of books recently. So it's a strong press. And I'd really recommend people go to the website and check it out. And of course, buy one of my books if you're so inclined. But just check out Meadowlark Books. It's a great website full of a lot of literary stuff that you'll like. So that's my plug for Tracy and her business. But it's fantastic, and I feel really blessed to be part of it. So thank you, Tracy and Lindsay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. This is wonderful. And thank you, Arlice. And thank you all for being here. This concludes tonight's event. So thank you for the big celebration. And I hope that you enjoy your copies of this book. And let's do this again sometime.
Yes, let's do. Thanks, everyone, for turning out. It's wonderful to see so many names. And I will be happy to autograph your copy of the book if you want me to. I'll arrange it with Tracy to sign some books. And then if you want a copy, she'll send you a signed copy. We'll make that happen. I hope she still agrees to it. I'm saying what she'll do, and maybe she's not saying that, but I think it'll work out. So if you want a copy signed, I'll do it. I'll spell your name correctly in the inscription, all of that. So,
Arlice, I actually ordered 2 copies
yeah.
today, and I would love it if you could sign one to me and one to Albert.
Oh, sure. That would be great. Be my pleasure.
Oh, I hope so. Terrific.
So you'll have the copies come to you?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Just email me when you get them, and I'll sign them.
Okay.
No problem. We'll arrange it.
Okay, great.
Good to see you, Skylar.
Well, thank you all. I will post this recording when it is ready. And yeah, stay tuned on the Meadowlark website page for any more updates about Arlice. We have a book review that we are working on together. So we're hoping to get that published at some point. And yes, keep reading, keep writing, keep attending virtual poetry readings. Thank you, Arlice. Go take a really long nap now.
Right, exactly. You can do it unmasked, so that's great. Well, thank you again to everyone. It's really humbling to me to see so many people attend this, and I'm really happy to connect with everyone. And it's been a wonderful time for me, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I say, I'll be happy to connect with you to sign your book, or Tracy will facilitate some of that. But I hope you enjoy the book. And as I said earlier, if not, you can admire the cover. Also, I want to give a plug to my friend Ron Mullenbrook, who designed the cover. Tracy helped some at the end, but Ron did most of the design, and it turned out very nicely, complemented the photo. It was all a great package. So that's all for me. Thanks again to everyone.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Drive safely, going home. All right. Well, Lindy, I'm going to sign out. So thank you for everything. And you too, Tracy. And all of our friends who are there. I see Jim and Helen. Thank you for attending. It's great. And we'll wrap it up now. So
yes.
See you all later sometime.
Great event.
Bye-bye.
Ah, that was wonderful. Let's see.